Hey everyone, Rho here. Today we are discussing the Emperor's desire to redeem the Traitor Primarchs. General spoiler warning to begin, as we will be discussing events from across the world of Warhammer 40k, so you have been warned. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. Okay, now the redemption of the Traitor Primarchs has always been a real fascinating topic to discuss. As much as we all know in our hearts it's not really likely, and I mean really not likely, it's just one of those what if topics you just can't help but wonder about. What if the Traitor Primarchs could be redeemed? We've even had a discussion about it quite a while ago, in which Primarchs in theory could I see being redeemed. However, since then, we've actually had further hints and teases within the lore that this is actually something he still clings on to, something that it appears he still very much considers. Now, back in the days of the heresy, as much as Horus's betrayal may have hurt his father, there was undoubtedly no blow worse than Magnus's fateful decision to send his warning via the warp. This one event was the sledgehammer blow that truly ended the Emperor's grand plans. Yet, despite dispatching Russ to bring him in, and Magnus's siding with Horus and Chaos, the Emperor still clung on to the hope that Magnus could be saved. And spoiler warning here, we saw this within the Siege of Terra novel Fury of Magnus by Graham McNeill. Here we saw the Emperor secretly allow and guide Magnus into the very throne room itself, despite the very real risks that it represented. And it was here the Emperor offered Magnus his chance to come home, to stand by his side once more, to be given a new and powerful legion. Admittedly here, this was very much in an attempt to win the Siege of Terra and Heresy, of course, and Magnus hadn't truly given himself over to the ruinous powers completely yet. He was still, as the Emperor describes, his son. So this isn't quite the redemption of those truly demonic brothers at this point, but it does help to show us an Emperor who is not just hellfire and fury, and one who still sees the good in Magnus, very much despite his mistakes and transgressions. Here he even shows Magnus a still possible future of them exploring the furthest reaches of the universe together. And sure, there will be some who would say that this is just more manipulation on the Emperor's part. However, for me, it's a genuine show of the Emperor's desires. However, as we know here, it's just not to be. Magnus would ultimately end up the true servant of Tzeentch that he is, and the Emperor himself would spend the next 10,000 years locked upon the Golden Throne. But in little over more than those 10,000 years later, we received a glimmer that maybe the Emperor was not quite given up on his lost and fallen sons yet. In Guilliman's memory of his reunion within the throne room, one of the many voices Guilliman hears tells him to save his brothers, showing us that at the very least, some aspect of the Emperor still feels this way. However minute it may be, it is still there. And this is then further expanded upon later. Then in Guilliman's final confrontation with Mortarion during the Plague Wars, we get perhaps the most conclusive evidence yet that the Emperor truly feels this way. As he appears to possess the body of Guilliman, he speaks through his son to Mortarion, telling him very clearly that he's just as much a victim as a monster, and that maybe one day he might be saved. And maybe even more importantly than that, rather than killing Mortarion here, which with the Emperor's powers we know would be a true death, he instead sends him back to Nurgle. So despite it all, despite all the tragedy the Traitor Primarchs have caused, despite the 10,000 years of suffering, the Emperor still clearly would prefer to save the Traitor Primarchs, save his sons, rather than destroy them. And before we discuss why, in that original offer to Magnus back at the siege, the Emperor does imply that it's only Magnus that can be saved. However, I really feel that that was more a mechanic for Magnus's story, and really this later pardoning of Mortarion, so to speak, really does go to show that. Or that at least in the moment of the Siege of Terror, Magnus was by far the only realistic option in that situation. So anyway, why? Why after everything does the Emperor still feel this way? Why does he feel this way after all this time? Is it the love of a father for his son? Or the Master Creator wanting to bring back a powerful weapon into his arsenal? I'm going to focus on the Mortarion situation here, as obviously this is by far the most recent encounter. For me, this is far more the father than the cold and calculating Emperor. And the key for me to say that is that he doesn't even know if he can be saved. It's a feeling, a wish, a hope. The cold calculating Emperor wouldn't give Nurgle the chance of keeping such a powerful weapon. He would have destroyed Mortarion right then and there, which I believe was very much within his power to do so. Mortarion was quivering in his boots. Nurgle's garden was about to be set into flames. This was the Emperor's best chance ever, since facing Horus himself, to eliminate a Traitor Primarch. Yet he didn't. The more sensible, logical thing to do would have been to destroy him. Yet he didn't. Because for me, it was a feeling, not logic. Somehow, some way, after all those years, after having so much of his humanity ripped away, that father aspect of the Emperor quite clearly still lingers on. This was in all likelihood the Emperor's first time seeing Mortarion since the Great Crusade. The first time truly seeing just what had become of his son. Maybe that was enough to flare up the sadness of the father left behind. The guilt at just what had become of his son, at what the ruinous powers had done to him. Without doubt, one of the most overriding emotions that we have glimpsed behind the eyes of the Emperor over the years, in those times of harsh decisions and actions, especially when it comes to his sons, is his sadness, is his regret. Sadness at the life they have to lead, regret at the actions he has had to take. The fact is, plot armor aside, he could have either destroyed him or not, and I think it's very clearly within his capability. We have already seen the Emperor's sword alone capable of giving greater demons a true death. There is no doubt he would be able to kill a demon Primarch. I think if anything could kernel that emotion that's left, then it would be the sight of a fallen and twisted son, a victim to the ruinous powers. Regret at the end of the day is a powerful emotion for any of us. There's simply no advantage for sparing the life of the Traitor Primarchs when you have the opportunity to end them. Anyone taken out is a truly mighty loss to Chaos. These are their champions. Could you really see the Emperor sparing the life of Abaddon? Sending him back to the ruinous powers to fight again? Exactly, it just wouldn't happen. Yet here with Mortarion, it does. And so again, for me at least, it only leaves an emotional decision. The bond that binds the Emperor with all his Primarchs. The bond of fatherhood. Maybe one he wasn't expecting, but one that's there nonetheless. But Rho, I hear you cry. Where was the human Emperor when Guilliman returned? Well, honestly, you can see the glimmers of him there too. The very first thing he said to Guilliman is "my son." It's quite clear the Emperor struggled to contain the many aspects of himself in that conversation. He gave an almighty effort to try and speak clearly to his son. We have no idea just how much it truly took out of him to do so. No, this wasn't just a loving, embracing father that Guilliman wanted, but it's very clear despite his theoreticals and practicalities, Guilliman's reaction to this is entirely emotional. Is it just possible as a result of that, he's completely overlooking and ignoring the efforts that the Emperor did make? His father made. For me, if you look past Guilliman's feelings, as this was Guilliman's memory, it's very clear despite it all, this Emperor that we saw with Mortarion is there too with Guilliman. Let's not forget the Primarchs were tools. They were created. The Emperor has never lied about that. The simple fact was, he began to care. As for the future, well, I think we know a redeemed Traitor Primarch is very, very unlikely. However, it certainly opens up the possibility of some great story situations, confrontations with other lost sons. We know the Emperor always had a tense relationship with Mortarion. How could it play out in meeting undoubtedly his worst one, in Angron? I feel the guilt would definitely still be there. What of Magnus? Or Lorgar? I mean, an ascended Emperor speaking with Lorgar. I mean, that may just be the most amazing scene we'll ever get to witness. It's definitely interesting to consider how differently what remains of the Emperor may react and feel to each Demon Primarch. Was it just the sorrow for Mortarion's situation, or would it be there for all of them? All of their stories were tragic in their own way, despite how they ultimately ended up. For me, I really feel that somehow, some way, as unrealistic as it may be, the Emperor just holds on to that hope. The hope that his sons could yet be redeemed. Yes, the hope of the master of mankind, hoping to win his war. But, 2. The hope still of the father. But as always guys, what do you think? Why do you feel after all this time, the Emperor still clings on to the belief that maybe somehow, some way the Traitor Primarchs could be redeemed? Is this feeling just for Mortarion, or is it the same for all of the Traitor Demon Primarchs? Just what situation is the Emperor hoping to come? Why does he feel that maybe one day it can be achieved? Or is it simply more a practical decision, a weapon that he seeks to get back? And if that is the case, is it really worth the risk of sending Mortarion back to Nurgle? As always guys, leave your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. If you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too? But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.